We're talking Ball State. Don Shondell and Ray McCallum talking Ball State. Nate Davis and Bonzi Wells. Schumann, Bell Tower, and Worthen. Fans Oliver from Muncie to Berlin. Getting Concannons, Carters, and Greeks. All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Ball State of the Union, your number one Ball State football podcast. By the fans, Colin and I, for the fans, all of you loyal Ball State of the Union listeners out there. We're talking current headlines, exclusive interviews with Cardinal athletes and coaches, and fun off-the-wall debates that you are not going to get anywhere else. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. That would be Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, all of them. And remember, whenever you hear that song, that beautiful voice, Colin, just know we're going to be talking Ball State shortly after. I'm John, Colin from Ball State Football Talk here. We are live. We are live on X. We are live on YouTube, and we are live on Instagram right now. So if you are in the chat for any of those platforms, please feel free to put in any of your questions or comments, and we will get to them at the end of the show. So, Colin, you've had a couple more days to digest what you saw in West Lafayette on Saturday. Do you have any final thoughts you wanted to get out there to Cardinal Nation about the Purdue game from this last weekend?
Yeah. Just keep supporting. This is going to be a tough week. There's no doubt about it. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So that's that New Hampshire game coming. We'll get our first win, get right back on the road. I would just say keep our head high, stay positive, support this team. Don't be too low on the guys. I think there were some positives, but, it's a tough game in general. So, yes, that's my overall thoughts right now.
Yeah, and for everyone out there, again, remember, that was week one of a new coaching staff, so that doesn't absolve all the mistakes that we saw, but we do need to give these guys some time. They are, have a ton of new players, whole new coaching staff. So going into a game where you're playing up in competition against a Big Ten team, obviously is going to be a tough road. So with that said, let's get into some news from this week. And the first news is same news from last week. What's up?
Real quick.
Yeah.
There was a Ball State dad who was already down on the squad. You triggered my thoughts on this. And when you said don't get too low on the team, someone compared us to Kent State just recently. And like that's just a bridge too far for me. Okay. So I just got to draw the line there. But so go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That came to mind.
Colin's always going to draw the line at Kent State. He's never gonna let Kent State be above him. So
we can't lose to them this year.
I'm very excited. When we play them later this year, it's our one Maction game. I think it's almost a given that Colin and I are going to be doing the live stream for it. So that will be electric. If for some reason we were to lose that game, I don't know. Colin, you're going to have to make some sort of bet to put out there to put something on the line here. So not money-wise, some sort of punishment. But anyways, news for this week. Same news as last week. Ball State of the Union is partnered with The Shop, Indy. So this is a t-shirt and apparel company in Indianapolis. So they have Ball State stuff. They have Colts, Pacers, Indianapolis 500, IU, Purdue. Everything Central Indiana is basically covered here. And so if you are a fan of The Shop, you're a fan of Ball State, you need some new merchandise, use that code BSUnion at checkout. You'll get free shipping. That's code BSUnion. And you'll get free shipping. I ordered this gray shirt right there, and it came yesterday, and it is awesome. I wore it. It fits great. It's comfortable. So I'm really happy that Colin and I were able to pick up that shipping for you. So again, code BSUnion from The Shop, and that will get you free shipping at your checkout. Colin, we have our uniforms for this week, and I'm going to put them up here on the screen real quick. I want to get your reaction to this. I'm sure you already saw them, but this is what we're rocking with this week down at Auburn at Jordan Hair, not Jordan. We were talking with Kyle, who you'll see our interview here in a minute. He told us that it was Jordan Hair, not Jordan Hair. So that's thank you for correcting us. But this is the uniform we're going. We're going white helmet. We're going white jersey with black pants, and it looks like black accessories like gloves and cleats. What are you thinking on the jerseys for this week for the Auburn game, or uniforms, I should say?
I'll say it's clean, but kind of plain Jane. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think I like that combo with the red a little bit more. I won't nitpick it too hard. It's definitely not as nice as that fresh outfit we see here on the right, John, that you posted. But I I don't hate it. I'll give it like a 7.9, John.
7.9. Okay, that's pretty generous. I'm with you. I think the red looks better. But you were alluding to here on the side. If anyone sees me in downtown Indianapolis this week, this is what I'm going to be looking
Damn.
like here. So I've been posting these. I posted last week. I
Jeez.
posted this week as well. I think I'm going to go Oregon Duck style here. I'm going to go different. I'm not going to go the same combination once this year. I'm going to keep them all different every single week. So be on the lookout for my uniform drops as well every week, Colin. So if you'd like to get in on the fun, feel free.
I see you.
We
I
had
see you.
we had a press conference earlier this week, which I know you love press conferences. And Coach Urovich spoke, and there was a clip I wanted to play from that and get your kind of reaction from it, because a common complaint, it seemed like, amongst Cardinal Nation this week was that it seemed like maybe we were unprepared or there wasn't enough adjustments. And Coach, you kind of alluded to how they're going about that. And so I want to play that clip here real quick, just a couple seconds, about what Coach U had to say kind of about those types of scenarios. So here's what he had to say about the miscues from last week and what they're kind of planning on doing.
It wasn't anything they had done. It was poor technique by DN one time, poor technique by safety another. We can fix those. I mean, that's the encouraging thing. We went through Sunday, and I think it was 21 play cut up I went through with the team, and said, okay, these are 21 times that Purdue didn't beat Ball State. Ball State beat Ball State because we weren't being fundamentally sound. You're going to lose in football. You're going to get beat physically. That's going to happen. But we can't lose leverage. We can't run the wrong route. We can't not get off on the snap count. So those are things that we can fix. And we went through all of them, and those are things we can fix and will fix.
So Colin, right there, he's there. It seems like it's very thorough, very detailed. He pulled out 21 specific plays where they're saying, hey, you know what? Purdue didn't beat us. This is where we beat ourselves. So it is encouraging to see that they are able to identify those quickly, and they're going to try and connect and try and fix those right away. So you're a coach yourself. Is this a common practice as you do? Do you go through and find the things that are maybe undisciplined or bad technique as opposed to, maybe you just got beat on by Purdue on a play? What's your kind of thoughts on what Coach you had to say about those 21 plays, he said?
Yeah, John, 100%. When you get beat that thoroughly, like we got beaten, I think you're clamoring to get to the tape. Not just you see what you see on the field, but you do see a lot more. Whether it be like in the box, you see more than when you're actually down on the field, or you'll even see more, on the film than you will in the box sometimes. Like if you're not paying attention to the right things. So I like that he did that. I think that was the right thing to do. I think sometimes you even just say, look, we got to throw away the tape. But with it being the first game, that's all we have right now. So I think that was a good idea. And he kind of sounded like Marcus Freeman a little bit. I live in South Bend, so I'm just exposed to that a lot. But I just heard his post game speech that was like Notre Dame beat Notre Dame, and it sounds kind of very similar to that. I'm not saying like he listened to that and then framed it similarly, but I think that's a good sign too, because that's a great coach as well. So I like what I'm hearing, John. I believe in Coach U, and like people that are down just this early. It's game one. We knew the first two games were most likely going to be a loss. Like if we were being really honest with ourselves. And just people that are already like trying to toss him overboard to, whether it's whoever it is, whether it's boosters, whether it's parents, whatever, you got to give him at least a year, and then you can like form some semblance of thought. But it's game one. It's game one. Like give him some time. He'll whip the guys in shape. Hopefully we look better the last game than we do the first game. Like every game we build. And if we do, then I think we should be satisfied with that. And I think we'll come out of the season at least with 3 wins or something like that, but I'm hoping for more. But, if we come out of this season with 3 wins, I think that's okay. Like that's his first season. And we move. But I'm not saying I think 3 wins, John. I'm still going with hopefully 5 or 6, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and he said also in this press conference that, if you're not better week 1 that you are week 2, that you are week 3, something's wrong. So that's what we're going to see. Hopefully, they're going to look better this week. So that is kind of the thing I pulled from Coach U's press conference this week. What else we got? Oh, Colin, something else big here that we got today. We didn't get this last week. A little bit of a mind game week 1, it seems like, between Ball State and Purdue and other programs out there. No depth chart, but we in fact do have a depth chart this week. So let me pull that up here and get your kind of thoughts on the depth chart that we got out there from our good friend Cade Hampton, friend of the show. Cade Hampton. It's kind of small. Obviously, I know it's hard to see, but you were looking through this, Colin. There's a couple things that stand out to me. I want to see what stands out to you first based on this first official depth chart of the 2025 Ball State Cardinal season.
So a couple things. First off, Kyle Kelly, QB1 starter, we knew that, but there was the or on there between Aiden Leffler and Walter Taylor. So it looks like they're both QB2s in a sense. Aiden Leffler did get to go in after Kyle Kelly had his helmet popped off. But I just thought that was interesting. Just, quarterback position is an interesting position in general. One thing that I did notice, and this is, I got to give a shout out to our guy Sidelines because he kind of brought this up as well. If you look at the depth chart pretty closely, there's not a whole lot of like transfers that are starting. I think we've got Eric Weatherly, Quay Ashley, and Nathan Voorhis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we didn't really it's not a negative, but we didn't really hit the lottery in the portal. So that's one thing to consider. And that is something, even when we back up and talk about expectations for Coach U and how we evaluate Coach U this year, we got to remember that a lot of the guys that are on the team are people that didn't get, taken in the portal by Houston, by a South Carolina, by a Kansas, by a Illinois. He's kind of working with, some starters, but some, definitely not the highlight players of last year. So that I did kind of take that away from the depth chart as well. John, I don't know. What about you? What'd you take?
Yeah, I mean, the other two things I noticed was it looks like Elijah Jackson's officially listed in that running back 2 position now. Again, there was not a depth chart last week, so I guess we don't technically have anything to go off of. He could have theoretically been the running back 2 last week as well. I know TJ Horton is a name that we heard a lot about as well, and we saw play some. So that's one thing that we noticed. And then the other one, looks like they're going strong Carson Homer this week, like we had predicted. It seems like they're going to continue to give him some chances out there, which I think is a good thing. I don't think you should give up on him so quickly, but that's kind of the 2 things that I noticed on the depth chart. So that's kind of our depth chart for this week. We'll check the tape. We'll see how this goes.
But John, have them check the tape from Purdue because on Purdue or at our post-game Purdue, I was like, Elijah Jackson is the number 2 running back. Like, to me, he just stood out. And it was clear cut for me that he was the number 2. Also, John, we both did come to the conclusion on the last episode that Carson Homer should get another game. And then we see if he has another bad game, then we move to DC Pippin. But this game isn't going to fall on the kicking game. So give the guy that the evaluators evaluated as kicker 1. Give him one more game, and then we go from there.
Perfect. We got a couple comments so far, and we're going to save those for the end of the show. I know we got our loyal listener, David Doherty, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's got a couple comments here. We'll save those for the end. And our friend Shay Kramer over on Instagram, Colin, he dropped a good punishment idea for you if Kent State is somehow beat us. So if you have any questions or comments, again, like David and Shay are doing, throw them in the chats on X, on YouTube, and on Instagram, and we will read them all at the end of the show. So the loyal fans out there, and for the new fans out there, a few weeks back, we were joined with David from BSU Edits, and we did an episode where we looked into the crystal ball 10 years from now. Well, funny enough, we did get some news about something about 10 years from now today. If you'll remember a couple years back, we went to Laramie, Wyoming, and played Wyoming. Well, we actually got that return game now. That game's going to be in Muncie at Schumann Stadium. And Colin, that is going to be September 10th, 2033. 11 years from now, we got Wyoming on the schedule. So if you want to start making your plans now for Ball State, Wyoming, September 10th, 2033, now's the time. If you need to get the Airbnbs, you need to get the hotels, get on them now. Colin, we got smoked when we played Wyoming the last time.
Yeah.
It'll probably be about 15, 16 years by the time we play them the next time. Will we get our revenge 15 to 16 years out from the last game?
Yeah, just like the Purdue post game, put a pin in this, bookmark this, because John, they're gonna cancel that game, and they're gonna end up paying us some money to squirm out of the game so they can book whoever, USC or UCLA, whoever they feel like. So yeah, I mean it's kind of exciting, but all these teams just end up squirming out at the end, anyways. I think they're scared. Not of this year's team, but John, we'll in 15 years. If we get a hold of David Letterman's wallet, we're gonna be great.
Yeah, if 11 years from now, Josh Allen might be the coach there. He might not be playing in the NFL anymore. So, put a pin in this, and I guess we'll revisit this in 11 years. So, that was a little bit of news that came out today. We have one more thing before we get to our interview with Kyle from the E2C Network, the Auburn Experience. He's a content creator for the Auburn Tigers. He talks about football, basketball, baseball, not sports, everything involved with Auburn. So great interview. We'll get to that here in just 1 second. But we wanted to plug one more thing on Ball State's behalf for tomorrow. It's coming out. It's going to be that wonderful series we saw last week. It is that Together series that SportsLink has made. And it is basically like the Hard Knocks for Ball State football. So they're doing it every single week. It comes out on Thursdays. So if you haven't seen it yet or seen the week 1 episode last week, go back and check it out. Colin, what were your thoughts on the last week's episode? And then I have a couple of thoughts as well.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I watched it like 5 times. I've watched that episode 5 times. It's like 13 minutes long. When I'm bored or I'm just like playing Ball State football on College Football 26, I'll just pop that on. It starts kind of weird. Like they use a Coach U quote where it's like, well, yeah, together, because we're in this together. I mean, if you watch it, it's kind of weird, but I love what they're doing. The Hard Knocks kind of style, chef's kiss. I love it.
Yeah. So I had two takeaways from the episode last week. A great quote, and I don't think it's necessarily from Coach Uramovich, but him describing these as 12 sacred Saturdays. I had never really heard that. I'm sure it's a common expression out there that a lot of people use, but I did like that expression. And then they gave away to all the guys who had a 4.0 GPA, I believe. They gave them these special shoes. We never got to see the shoes. I want to see the 4.0 shoes. If Kyle Kelly or Darren Conley or anybody out there who got the 4.0 Nike shoes, I want to see them. Send me a picture of them. I want to see what they look like. Maybe I'll get a pair myself. But okay, Colin, do you have anything else before we get into our interview with Kyle from the E2C Network, the Auburn Experience?
No, I'm super excited for the people to see it. I think it's a great interview. And yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, and actually, we did a plug for Ball State of the Union basically on his show as well. I'm not exactly sure when it's coming out, either today or tomorrow. But if you love Colin and I, and you can't get enough Ball State of the Union, we actually go on there as well, and he interviews us, and we give them an inside look at Ball State. So check that out as well if you're interested. But without further ado, here is the interview we did with Kyle from the E2C Network, the Auburn Experience, about the Auburn Tigers and what you guys can expect to see this Saturday on the field and if you go to the game. All right, everyone out in Cardinal land, we have a special guest here today. Joining us from the SEC, we have Kyle from the E2C Network, the Auburn Experience. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us here today on Ball State of the Union. Before we jump in to this upcoming Saturday's game, we want to just talk about, obviously, we have an independent podcast just like yourself. Kind of, how did you start it? Why did you start it? When did you start the E2C Network? And kind of, how's it been going ever since you did?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me and let me tell a little bit of our story personally, because obviously it's very intertwined with the Auburn Experience. And it began as what was called the Ever to Conquer podcast. And as you can tell, that's the E2C. Believe it or not, a lot of our Auburn people have not caught on to that yet. And I still get some of our regular followers like, I can never figure out what is the E2C for. I'm like, Ever to Conquer. It's part of our fight song, Ever to Conquer, Never to Yield. That's where that comes from. That is trademarked, that phrase. So obviously you've got to work around that a little bit. And that's why we've ended up putting the tagline, the Auburn Experience. Really, it began back in 2014, January of 2014, when me and a couple of buddies were just texting. They're like, we had just lost the national championship to Florida State. And shout out to them, by the way, from this weekend. And we were like, how we have in our lifetime experienced the national championship win, but we've never been able to process what does it feel like to have one, especially taken away from you in the last few moments. How do we process this? Like I got things I need to say. And so we were just like, this new podcasting thing's coming out. Let's give it a shot. And so we started it that way. And then it kind of morphed into its thing. Well, why isn't anybody doing a show about basketball? Why isn't anybody doing a show about track and field? Why isn't anybody doing a this, that, the other? And so it's gone through several iterations. It used to be one show that did everything. It switched into a bunch of shows covering very different topics, either in the sports space or otherwise. And now it's kind of come back to what it started as it's got a core content, which is our main podcast, The Auburn Experience, which is, as we define the Auburn Experience, three things: Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. And I'm going to use our little fun slogan: if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So we literally will cover anything in the Auburn Experience. We have literally done a mini series about The Bachelor because an Auburn lady was on it and she made it all the way to the end of The Bachelor. That was Maddie Pruitt, if you're fans of that show. So all that to be said, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do now. And we do, as you can tell, video, audio, social media work. We're here just to serve the Auburn family and help them live the experience especially when they can't be there in Auburn to go to game day, or they just want to have their opinion or hear someone talk about something that's not just the same old talk every single week. Auburn football is fun. It's a roller coaster ride, but there's got to be some different flavors and things like that. So that's what we try to do. And I guess that's the overarching story of how it began and how long it's been going. So over a decade now.
Dang, yeah. And you can see it in the work you guys put out there. It looks great. You guys are everywhere. So great work. Like I said, this last decade. We have a similar backstory kind of. So we were wanting to have, there was no one out there talking about Ball State sports except for the school. So we figured, I found Colin ranting on social media a couple months back about the lack of post-game press conferences after a game against Kent State, which I don't know who in the world would want to watch that, but Colin did. And so I said, this is the guy for the job for me. So, here we are now. So we're going to jump into the game here. So for the Ball State fans out there listening, if you're not familiar, Ball State is going to be going down to Auburn this weekend at 7:30 p.m. on ESPNU Jordan-Hare Stadium. This is actually the fourth all-time meeting between these two schools. Ball State, unsurprisingly, 0-3 all-time. Shocker, I know. Last meeting coming in 2009. Interesting stat I was unofficially found. I think aside from the Indiana Hoosiers, with this fourth matchup this weekend, maybe Indiana and Army, actually, I think Auburn is going to be the team we've played the most in that time frame since 2001, playing you guys 4 times, which is kind of crazy to think about. But outside of the MAC teams, obviously. But Ball State, currently winless all time against SEC teams. I don't really see that changing this weekend, but crazier things have happened.
Yes, they have.
This also marks the 4th straight season that Ball State has played an SEC opponent with the likes of Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Vanderbilt, and now Auburn. So let's look at Auburn now. Offseason. Kyle, what are some things that Ball State fans should know that happened this offseason, whether it be transfer portal additions or key recruiting wins, or maybe some of the biggest headlines from Auburn football this past spring and summer?
Well, you've got the legitimate headlines and you've got the emotional stories that were just meant to stir up trouble. And if you know anything about the Auburn fan base, they live a troubled life, especially in the offseason these days. We are in an era where we have been probably at our lowest in quite some time. Coming out of that, certainly, as things appear at this moment. Some of those were because choices we made back in 2020 to fire a head coach we didn't need to fire without a adequate replacement. I won't go through the history of that for y'all, but Brian Harsin and then now we're here with Hugh Freeze, who's getting things back to where we are now. But there are certain stereotypes you may hear references towards. Did Hugh Freeze golf too much during the off season? The obsession over that was just weird at times. Like, are we that bored, folks? That was my biggest question a lot on our shows. But really, if we get down to the nitty gritty and what you're asking more so about the team and what to get acquainted with, Auburn did very well in the transfer portal. Arguably, depending on where you look at your different rankings and stuff, they got the best wide receiver out of the transfer portal, and Eric Singleton Jr. out of Georgia Tech. A lot of hype around him. Showed up a little bit in the first game. I think it's only a taste of what's going to happen and how dynamic he is. That guy is probably the story of the offseason. I also love some of the pickups that we got in the transfer portal that aren't being talked about as much. In fact, I'll use one from the previous season, Dorian Mausi, who is not with the team currently because he graduated, but he was only here for 1 year and became instantly the leading tackler. And nobody was talking about him as a transfer portal guy. Like, just here he is. He transferred in. Everybody was focused on other people. So I have a feeling that we're going to see that again. Hugh Freeze has been very great recruiter in his past and currently as well. Bringing in talent from the high school and transfer portal level and getting them in position to compete for playing time. And then a lot of them end up beating out some of the players that have been here. Some of them have already left and gone on to different teams because of that. So you're going to see, especially being the second game of the year, a lot of new faces. We will see a lot of new faces as well, because it'll be, as you pointed out, and I think it's no shock that we're expecting to win. Doesn't mean it will happen, but that's at least the expectation. That means hopefully there's going to be a lot of new faces out there as well. So Eric Singleton's one I would know from the offseason. That's probably the big thing that everybody's going to talk about. And just in general, Auburn's wide receiver core was the big conversation, Pete. How great is this going to be? But also, how is it going to work with Jackson Arnold? The big phrase was, is he the guy? When Auburn selected him as their transfer portal quarterback to replace graduating senior Peyton Thorne. There were some other options out there, whether that was because of money, just didn't want to come to Auburn, whatever. Some people will tell you that this was going to be the savior of Auburn football. Here's another fun thing that you need to know about Auburn folks. A lot of them are still looking for the day of the second coming of Cam Newton and have not moved on from that day since. Like, listen, Cam's right back here. That's where he's right back there in the photo. But listen, nobody's going to top what that man did. I think really from the offseason, that's probably the biggest things that you need to be aware of. Is the talk was Auburn's wide receiver core. This is the year that they need to put the wins out there on the field significantly better than they have. They've been 4 or 5 straight losing seasons technically. And some of those losing seasons happened towards the end of the year because we lost the last game or lost in the bowl game or something like that. So it's a year. The offseason has been filled with anticipation, frustrations that have been boiling over, a lot of conversations about, is, Hugh Freeze the guy? Is he going to get it done? I think that's a little bit premature if you look at the context about what Auburn has positions they put themselves in by choices that I laid out earlier. That's just my opinion about it. But here we sit, game one's already done, and that was a pretty decent showing. So I find that we're heading in the right direction for the most part right now.
Yeah, and you keep alluding to the Auburn fans. I don't know about Colin, but I have gotten a little bit of a taste of Auburn Twitter here in the last couple of days.
Lord.
Not as much as our friend Rob from Sidelines Ball State. He has kind of gone into the mud a little bit with them.
Yeah.
But Colin and I have not as much. But yeah, so we have gotten a small taste of the Auburn fans so far. But
I hope it's good.
It's been pretty fun for the most part. We don't nothing gets too crazy in the Ball State social media world. But so it's been a fun little change of pace. But I know Colin, he's more of the X's and O's guy. He's more dialed in with what's going on. He wants to kind of ask you about maybe some other key players to watch, maybe on all sides of the ball.
Yeah. Before we get into the key players, Kyle, just real quick, before the season started, I remember reading some article on the coaches that were most on the hot seat. And I believe I saw Hugh Freeze on that list. So my question is, how were Auburn fans feeling coming into the season? And then how are they now feeling after week one? Has that changed a little bit? Has his seat gotten colder since Alabama lost, for example? What would you say, Kyle?
Yeah, it always depends on which fan you're talking to. There is a certain subset of our fan base that despise Hugh Freeze for reasons that have nothing to do with football, and they're just chomping at the bit to be able to tell you that I told you so and get rid of him. I think that's most fan bases, but there's some things we don't even need to get into here about all that kind of stuff. But look, Auburn is a place where you're expected to be competitive every year, and in some years compete for a national championship. Like it's not certainly we're not going to. I'll say it here on the thing. It's not Alabama. They're down the street, I guess. Essentially, they have all the national championships, but so do we. We just claim.
So you guys got some more recently.
Yeah, we can start that debate if you want. But
I think claim whatever you want. If we could claim some, we would.
Hey, listen. Hey, man, just go ahead and do it. If you can make a case for it, that's all I'm going to say about it.
All right, Colin, get on that.
Yeah, but we'll
no, I got that's coming up in rapid fire. We'll talk about that.
Okay, yeah, we'll get there. I'm getting ahead of ourselves here, but yeah, I look. He's got to win, right? He has recruited well. He's gone into the transfer portal and done very good things there. Keandre Lambert-Smith last year was one of the best things that I've ever seen come through the transfer portal, and we could only have him for 1 year. It's like one of my biggest regrets. I would say this year, if he does not make a bowl game and have a winning season, it wouldn't shock me to see someone pull the plug, but I don't think that that's going to happen. So it just really depends on who you're talking to. By and large, I think most Auburn fans are understanding enough that if he significantly improves Auburn's wins this year, maybe he's in the conversation at some point this season for just, could Auburn be an outside shot for a playoff? That's going to satiate most people, and we can move forward in that. I don't think there's any real danger, but certainly in off-season topics, he has been on the hot seat, so to speak. This last game, I think did a little bit to help quell that, because there was a lot of conversation. Does the season hinge on this Baylor game? And I thought that was just a little bit overblown, but it certainly gets you off to a great start.
So, Kyle, I did watch that first game. At least part of it, John texted me, make sure you get some scouting in, so I turned it on. I don't know much about your roster, though, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
I know they've got somewhat of a scrambling quarterback in Jackson Arnold, I believe.
Apparently.
And I played you guys in College Football 26, and there's a big number 87. And then I saw the guy with 2 watches on his wrist.
Cam Coleman.
Talk a little bit about maybe the players on offense that I haven't mentioned, or some that I have, and maybe go into their game a little bit.
Yeah, so 87 is Brandon Frazier, and certainly he looks huge on that game. Like it kind of stood out to me too when I started playing College Football 26. Here's something crazy. Auburn's tight ends really haven't been part of the picture significantly for a while, and they finally were in this first game at Baylor, and it was so refreshing. And Brandon's, just to be honest, I think he would admit this as well, he's been around for a while. He suffered from some injuries that have kept him out from playing. They've not really been the talk of any major conversation this year, which is kind of nice. And I love those types of stories. So if I'm Ball State folks, I'd be looking out for the tight end position, not just in Brandon Frazier, but also we brought in from Maryland, Preston Howard. Those are probably your 2 main targets. There was some young talent as well. But really, as you brought up, the guy with the 2 watches is Cam Coleman. He is the superstar of the Auburn wide receiver core alongside Eric Singleton, who just came in. That's who you really got to worry about. And here's the thing. Auburn fans last week were a little bit disappointed that we didn't throw as much as they thought we should have. I don't know why you would when you're just gashing them in the run game. You just take what the team has given you. It's a pretty easy concept to understand. But this week, I think it's going to be one of those times, especially at home, under the lights. You're going to see that ball slung around a lot, and let Cam Coleman, let Eric Singleton, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons, those are all names that you need to know, go to work. And there's more than just those 4. Those are just the 4 that came off the top of my head. The scrambling quarterback thing, I guess I knew Jackson Arnold was going to be mobile, but I didn't think it was going to be that mobile in that game. Yeah. And it showed us something that it harkened back. I used it a lot in our post-game show. Felt like the 2013 Tennessee game. If you remember the name Nick Marshall, that's who took us to the championship game versus Florida State. He just was going up and down the field, just tearing Tennessee up. And there were some other elements that harkened back to that game in that year too. So it got Auburn fans, I think, feeling a certain way about this team very early and made us feel pretty good about ourselves. So you're probably finding an Auburn fan base that's in good mood right now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And funny story. You mentioned Nick Marshall. I was actually had a couple different jobs in the NFL for a few years, and when I worked for the Jaguars, Nick Marshall and I crossed paths a few times for a little bit there. And so I do have a couple Auburn guys in my back pocket. But sorry, anyways, Colin,
that's a good one to have, though.
Yeah,
Yeah. So Kyle, that definitely, when you talked about wide receivers, had me a little nervous just because our secondary against Purdue got absolutely gashed. It was probably the weakness of our team,
roasted.
Especially for defense. So that's going to be trouble. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the spread and, over on the points or whatever, but that's going to be a problem. What about defense though, Kyle? Who should we be looking out for defensively from Auburn?
Yeah, listen, what we came into this year feeling like we knew was the defense was going to be solid. DJ Durkin, however you feel about him in his past, he is an outstanding defensive mind, an outstanding defensive coordinator. Someone tried to steal him this week, this last off season, not this week. Well, that'd be terrible. Ohio State, I believe, was the ones that were trying to get him, if I remember correctly. Thankfully, we signed an extension with him, and he is very much deserving of that, in my opinion. What was the story of last year carrying into this year was all of the young freshman, true freshman, true sophomore talent that supplanted all of the people that had been starting for a while, especially like in defensive backs, and just became not only big time players for us, but became recognized as all SEC freshmen, all SEC certain lists, third, second team, whatever, in such a short amount of time. So if you ask me about a strength for the defense coming into this year, it was going to be defensive back. And if we just overreact to one game, that certainly didn't look like it against Baylor. If you watch that, they hit us underneath the defensive backs and over the middle too many times throughout the game. It's just one game though, and I think that's going to get cleaned up. So I still consider that to be a strength. The linebacker core is brand new, aside from like two guys that didn't really start, at least in towards the end of the year last year. So they're kind of making it new and making the room their own with a couple of transfers that have come in from Maryland. Caleb Wheatland, he's been brought in as well. So that's like a new room. And the big question mark has been the interior defensive line. But last week they showed that we don't need to be questioning them as much. But the biggest name you need to know on defense is Keldrick Falk. He's the guy who got the sack at the end of the game. Probably had a more quiet game in general than what we're used to for him. But don't let that fool you. This guy has got a lot of NFL talent, NFL scouts salivating at his talent. He's the guy that you need to be afraid of to start the game and coming after your quarterback and backs and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So what would you say, now that we've talked a little bit about defense and offense, between the two, what's the better group, would you say? And then what's the one area that makes Auburn dangerous, whether it's, SEC speed, defensive front, a physical run game? What's that big strength on the team?
I would say before the first game was played, the strength was the defensive backs. And I still think it is, as I said, that was going to set us apart and really give this offense time to find itself. But let me go to what the first game showed. One of the biggest questions I have had personally is the offensive line for the last 5 years. And in my opinion, it is the biggest problem that Auburn has had. Not just the quarterbacks could have been better. Not going to say they couldn't have been, but literally that's who starts the play. You can't snap the ball without a center. And if they just let go Olay and let the quarterback get chased around all the time, it doesn't really matter. You can have the best players, the best plays drawn up. It won't work. This game, they showed in one game that they're making a statement. Now, will that consistently happen? My suspicion is there won't be too much trouble. I could be wrong with Ball State for the most part, especially at home in that regard. And so we'll see how true and how strong they are as we get into SEC competition. But to me, based off of what I think Ball State needs to be the most afraid of off of game one is that running game, especially at home, because Ball State's going to be needing to grab onto any little shred of like momentum that they can have. And if Auburn just takes that ball on the ground and just starts grinding like they did against Baylor at their place, when it's at home this time, it's over. And just throw in the wide receivers then at that point. So I think right now, based off one game, you would say the offensive line and the running backs add in Jackson Arnold is going to be the area of the strongest concern for Ball State.
Now, Kyle, if you were to switch roles, say you were to be a coach on Ball State, what would you pinpoint on Auburn that you would want to attack?
Oh, that's a good question. Offensively, I would not do what Baylor did and run 2 high safeties and just plan on all we're going to do is shut down the wide receivers. Clearly that didn't work. You're going to have to rattle Jackson Arnold. And based off the performance of the offensive line in game 1, I don't know that that's going to be as easy as we once thought it was. But you got to get to Jackson Arnold. He had a rough start at Oklahoma. If you've watched any of his highlights, some of the stories around him there, some people wondered why even Auburn went after him. So that would be my strategy. Rattle Jackson Arnold. Whatever you got to do, maybe even do some, I want to say dirty plays or things like that, but just, go listen, you're in a hostile environment trying to write, old history here of Ball State not having any success in Auburn. So maybe whatever you got to do to go rattle Jackson Arnold, that's what I would do. On defensive side. Offensively, I would probably attack the middle and see if that interior defensive line can replicate what they did last week with shutting down the Baylor offensive attack from the ground. I'd try to gash that middle because Keldrick Falk on the outside, Kieron Crawford, who was the leading tackler on the other side of that D line, you don't want to go over there. So attack the middle would be what I would say offensively for Ball State.
Okay, perfect. We're about to jump into game predictions, but before we do, I wanted to hit on one thing because I was watching the game for a little while on Friday night. And you covered them already, but I know we didn't really talk much or really at all about special teams. Who is that kick returner you guys got?
Wow. We're just now getting to know him. And what a pleasant surprise it was.
Yeah.
Sorry. I know we got to do the joke. It's Rayshawn Pleasant is his name. The jokes have been said since the moment he hit the 50-yard line. What a pleasant surprise. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of hype of this guy coming in. He got recognized for the specialist watch list award, whatever it's called these days. I'm a highly skeptical guy these days about people being on watch lists and things like that, but not to say that they're not deserving of being there. It's just, it's off season. Everybody's trying to get a little bit of interest piece going. And boy, did he prove me wrong. Man, 98 yards. It's the first time something of that length has happened since 2011. Trey Mason, who's a running back, went about 98 yards as well, I think. I've got my dates and numbers right and names correct there. Listen, dude's got speed, hits another gear, and he's gone. So what Ball State can't do is allow something like that to happen. If that starts happening again, and don't just think it's about kick returning too, like off the kickoff. Eric Singleton right now has been running back there if he continues to not be banged up, which he seemed fine in the last game at punt returner, and he's a dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands. So Auburn's got weapons on special teams, and it's definitely an area Ball State can't afford to let Auburn do something with.
Well, that's perfect to know because we came off one of the worst special teams performances in the history of football last week. So that is good to know. And we do have some pretty fast guys, a couple guys that are faster than you would think on our team, but we don't have anyone that fast. So that'll be fun to deal with. All right, let's get into game predictions. I don't think there's going to be anything crazy going on here, but Kyle, I don't know if you do betting lines or spreads or anything like that. The spread for this game is Ball State plus 43.5, and the over/under is 53.5. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I'm not too much of a betting guy, but I do understand the concept there. Look, you're going to see all kinds of score predictions of Auburn 60-3. Auburn, I think I've seen 70-0, and those are the people being ridiculous. But if Auburn lives up to its potential on offense of what's been thought of it, those aren't that far fetched. I just think we are just putting the cards on the table here, as we all expect this to be an Auburn win. I think most people recognize that. The goal here for Auburn is to take care of business in the first half so that you can play the guys that you need to get more tape on, so that you need to get reps for. And with that comes more mistakes and comes more opportunities for Ball State to take advantage of the further down the depth chart. So I got to think that Ball State is going to have some points on the board, maybe even before that happens, because if you watch the tape of Auburn against Baylor, there was a little missed tackling problem going on. So if you got some athletes, just tell them, hey man, make a miss. And they showed that they'll miss last week. Now that's obviously going to be a point of emphasis in practice this week. You said 43 was the spread?
Yeah, 43.5.
I would say I would feel confident that Auburn can do that. Based off of game one coming into the game before game one happened, I would say, I think we could probably get 38 points on the board, which was what last game. But if we did that against Baylor at home, you'd expect us to do a little better. Mm-hmm. I'll take the over just because I think eventually it's just going to be too much for Ball State in the end. I hate saying that for you guys' sake, but
no. We both took both of those already this week.
Yeah, I think it's probably a safe bet at this point.
Colin, do you want to change your pick from Sunday, or are you sticking with what you said?
No, Kyle's exactly right. Yesterday, we had a fan actually sent us this tweet. John, give me 30 seconds to read this. Auburn fans, if you want to pay for your beer, ticket, and hot dogs, take your boys minus 43.5 to the bank and possibly add a shutout to bet slip. This week is going to be ugly. And honestly, I didn't agree with everything he said after that because then he kind of compared us to Kent State. And we're not on Kent State's level, but I do think he's right. 43.5 is easily going to get covered. I'd say, John, somewhere really around like 56-6. And last week, Kyle, we had 2 field goals missed. We're not even very confident in our kicker. We've got a kicker issue going on. There's some controversy. Maybe we'll get into that on your pod. But, yeah, I'm not confident whatsoever in the special team. So I'm going to say you guys score like 8 touchdowns against us. Let's say 56-6, John.
Wow, man.
So yeah, Kyle brought up a great point earlier. It's all about what Auburn does in this first half, because like you said, they're going to want to try and get these starters some rest, get these other guys some reps. And we had a similar scenario. Well, both scenarios actually. 3 years back, we played Tennessee, and they ran it up the whole game because they were up so much at halftime, but they never really rested guys as much. But then when we played Georgia the next year, Georgia got off to a slow start. It was actually 0-0 going into the second quarter. You can't ever take that away from us. I have a picture of that forever in my office. But Georgia wasn't able to cover that spread because, like you said, they took those guys out at halftime, and they weren't really trying to run it up on them. So I think that's a great point. Whatever this first half is really going to dictate. If you're a bettor, I'm not really a big bettor. Colin is a little bit bigger than I. So bettors out there.
Lost my money last week.
Yeah, he lost his money last week. So, all right, you got a little fired up, and I asked you about this before we started recording. Jordan-Hare Stadium and / Auburn, just experiences in general. I'll leave it open-ended for that. You can talk about the game day. You can talk about food. You can talk about anything you want.
Oh, man.
What's the best?
Listen, I think this is probably why I call us the Auburn Experience, because we recognize people are mainly here to talk sports and mainly here to talk football, but it's so much broader than that. Auburn is called the loveliest village on the plains, and there's a reason for that. It is a small little village that turns into a metropolis on game day. And there are so many things that you can get involved with on a weekend. Auburn people, by and large, we all have our bad parts about our fan base, love showing off Auburn and giving you a good experience. So my recommendation to Ball State fans, come in hat in hand and, just be friendly, and you're going to probably be welcome into open arms. You probably won't have to pay for a meal on game day if you play your cards right, because we love showing Southern hospitality and showing what we call it the Auburn family is all about. Now, if you come in firing on all cylinders, then you're going to get it right back. Never wake a sleeping tiger, they say. So I would recommend, if people want to go places to kind of get some of the flavors, Mama Goldberg's on I did this earlier today. I'm so disappointed in myself. Magnolia Street and Donahue. It is the original. There are several locations and you can go to any one of them, but that's the original. It's a little shack of a building. It's a deli. That's just so many nostalgic memories. Me and my wife's names are carved into the wall somewhere in there. It's awesome. On Opelika Road, a little bit away from campus, is going to be a great breakfast place called Byron's Smokehouse. If you like Southern style breakfast food, that's the place you want to go, but plenty of other places are just as good. Sheila C's Burger Barn, which is like a shack of a building on University Boulevard. And I can keep going and going about food and stuff. But what you really want to do if you're a Ball State fan and you've never been to Auburn is make sure you are butts in seat 15 minutes, I think is usually what it is, before kickoff for the flight of the War Eagle. Seeing that come down, it is one of the greatest traditions, in my opinion, the greatest tradition in college sports, and it is quite a spectacle. I actually volunteered with the Raptor Center that trains the Eagles, and have pretty good familiarity with how that works. It's former field of work, employment field for me, not necessarily with them, but in a different space. So that's the thing that I think you need to make sure if you're a Ball State fan, come check out the War Eagle flight. But Tiger Walk, and look, we've been very upfront here. This is an Auburn win, most likely. 90% sure, probably 95%, whatever you want to say.
I would say probably 99.
99. Okay, you said it, not me.
Yeah.
Toomer's Corner is the weird spectacle everybody probably makes fun of us for. We go roll Toomer's Corner, which is the famous corner of campus meeting into downtown. It will be a spectacle. It's the first one of the year. There will be a lot of families there. It's a night game. Just come on over. Certainly everybody will be very rowdy over there, but come see the spectacle of it and make fun of us if you want. But it's a good thing to come see if you like to take in the fullness of a different college campus experience.
Yeah, and all those SEC games earlier that I had mentioned, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Vanderbilt, I went to all those. I was planning on going to this Auburn game. I unfortunately double booked myself. So I'll be in Indianapolis for the Colts-Dolphins game the next day, which, looking back now, I cannot believe I'm going to that. Watch Daniel Jones week 1, but that's a whole nother story. So, yeah, I'm jealous. So any Ball State fans out there who are making the trip down, Kyle just laid out some great suggestions for you.
One more.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. If I don't get this out, the Auburn fans that come check this out are going to scream at me. Toomer's Corner is also known for the rolling after the games, but Toomer's Drugstore, literally directly across from that corner, is known for its lemonade.
Oh, I have seen people saying that.
Yes. I would say if you do nothing else in Auburn, go get you some Toomer's lemonade. Try the original, but the strawberry lemonade with the real strawberry bits in it is the best. See the Eagle flight. Maybe go try Mama Goldberg's. And there's plenty of things you still wouldn't be able to do in Auburn that you should do, but do those 3 things that I think you've at least gotten a good smattering of what you need.
Perfect. All right, Kyle, you go through the Iron Bowl every year. You've been through national championships, games against Georgia, but I think your toughest test is coming up right now. And this is the number 1 toughest segment in all of the Mid-American Conference. This is Colin's rapid fire round. So Colin,
I love it.
Without further ado, what are your rapid fires for today?
Kyle, last week, did you like the Auburn win over Baylor or the Alabama loss to FSU more?
It's always Auburn first, but don't get it twisted. That was very enjoyable to watch as well.
Yes or no? Has the Bama dynasty ended?
Yes, but I don't mean it as drastically as it sounds. But yes, I would say in what we know of it, yes.
I love to hear that. Who is the biggest non-Bama rival for Auburn?
Oh, Georgia. Yeah, not even
Georgia.
A hesitation there. It's Georgia, and some people will tell you Georgia is the bigger rival, and they're very mistaken on that. Let me just be clear on that.
Kyle, Cam Newton or Bo Jackson?
Bo Jackson.
Kyle, your ideal number of teams to make the college football playoffs?
Ooh, great question.
Oh, actually, I'm probably going to be hated for this. 8. That's it. Only 8.
What NFL teams do Auburn fans root for with no Alabama team?
Say that one more time.
What NFL teams do Auburn fans generally root for with no Alabama NFL team? Is there one? This is just a random question.
No,
this is the hard-hitting journalist you're not going to get anywhere.
No, I guess I haven't thought about that. I don't know that there is one. It's definitely not the Packers. It used to be the Panthers would be the one, but now they've got Bryce Young on them. So I don't know that there is one, to be honest with you. So I'm going to say none.
Kyle, we're in Big Ten country, Ball State of the Union here, even though we're not, Big Ten fans ourselves. So I had to ask this. Do you believe, Kyle, if you ever did, that the SEC is still the premier conference in college football?
Yes, I do think it's still the premier conference in college football. We'll go with my reasoning for that will be money.
Okay. Even after last year, so I like that. I like that. Worst Auburn team you can remember?
Ooh.
Oh, some will tell you 2012, and that might be the correct answer, but there are some from beyond my time. I'm gonna go 2012. It was 2 years removed from a national title, and it was 3-9. So yeah.
And then Kyle, we referenced this earlier. How many of the new claimed national championships are actually legitimate?
Ooh.
Every single one of them, because everybody else has got much worse examples of their claimed ones.
Fair enough. And then finally, Kyle, what is the point of wearing 2 watches at once?
That's a great question, and I wish I had an answer for it. It's got to be some signal that you're trying to send to your defenders or something like that, because that's a first for me too, and it's wild that that's become a story this week.
It might just be drip.
It might be. Listen, I'm not that old, but I'm getting older, and it just maybe I don't understand the times, and that's what you're supposed to do now as a wide receiver. Maybe we'll get the backstory as more games come out this year.
Fair enough.
There you go. Hey, you survived.
Man, it's touch and go there for a minute.
You survived. So, hey, Kyle, we appreciate your time. Do you have any last final thoughts or things you want to reiterate about this game on Saturday?
No, listen, Ball State fans, again, I think, as you've said, you most recognize what's about to happen here. I don't say that with any arrogance, though, because you do got to show up. Auburn has been very close to losing 2 teams, probably worse than Ball State ever has been, that they had no business on homecoming. Oh, I just had a flashback right there. But just, look, come in, have a good time. You should be treated well. If you didn't get treated well by an Auburn fan, let me know, and I'll take care of them and let them know that they're not living up to the Auburn creed. But I think you'll enjoy your experience even with a loss in the loveliest village on the plains.
Perfect. All right. Well, Kyle, we appreciate your time. Everyone out there, for some reason, you're a crossover Ball State Auburn fan, or you just want a Power 5 team to cheer for, go check out Kyle in the E2C Network, the Auburn Experience. Kyle, best of luck the rest of the season, and make sure that check clears this weekend.
Absolutely. We're got it in the mint right now for you guys, making sure we got everything to back up that check for you.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
All right, Colin. That was our interview with Kyle from the E2C Network, the Auburn Experience. Before we get into your thoughts on how you thought the interview went and what he had to say, just a reminder to everyone out there, we've got some comments coming in from YouTube. The Instagram chat is throwing a lot of stuff our way, so be sure to put your comments in on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, and we will read them here in just a couple minutes at the end of the show. So, long, good interview with Kyle. Give you a very detailed look into Auburn, Colin. What were your takeaways from what Kyle had to tell us about the Auburn Tigers?
Yeah, some of my biggest takeaways were just the atmosphere, the environment, the Auburn experience, how he put it, really. It sounds like a great place to play. I'm really excited for our guys to get that experience. And, he seemed like a great guy, and I've had good experiences with Auburn fans too. So, I don't know, just a positive experience in general, and that was really what I got from it.
Yeah, one thing from the game that I took away was from when I was watching them play Baylor last week, that kick returner that he was talking about really jumped off the screen. One way we might be able to neutralize him is we only kicked off once last week. So if we don't kick him the ball, then he can't return it on us. So if the offense doesn't get it going this week, then he might not be as big of a factor, but that guy is pretty dangerous. He's pretty fast. So, like we alluded to at the beginning of the show, we actually did a corresponding interview on Kyle's channel to give the Auburn fans an inside look into Ball State. Colin and I was on there last night, and he has since posted it since we started this. So whenever you're done watching with us today, go over to the E2C Network, the Auburn Experience, and you'll see our interview on there. So if you're big fans of the show and you just want a little bit more of Colin and I, if you don't get enough already, there's your chance to see a little bit more. So we debuted this segment last week. So our 3 chirps for the game. Colin, I'll let you go first. What are your 3 chirps for the game this week against Auburn?
All right, number 1, John. First chirp is to come out uninjured. I think that might be the most important thing for the whole game, is just not to have anybody important get injured. Second chirp, get some confidence in the kicking game. I don't even care if it's Carson Homer. If it's Carson Homer and he comes in and he drills 3, okay, great. If Carson Homer misses one and they put DC Pippen in and he drills 2, I'm fine with that too. Whoever they decide, I just want to see the kicking game get rolling here. I think that's pretty important. Not so much for this game, John, but for the following games that are coming. And then finally, my third chirp, and this is because we've had a lot of Debbie Downers around here, man. This is Ball State of the Union. We love this team. We're going to support this team. But I do need the team to give the fans a play or two to get excited for. Last game, I went to the Purdue. I went there myself. I was at the Purdue game. And John, I had no opportunities to really get up and yell and be excited and like be a little obnoxious, honestly. Like I'd be a fan. I had no real opportunity. I think I might have stood up once and yelled. Oh, that sack from Nathan Voorhees. But we need more moments. And I understand maybe the score is not going to be super palatable for people who are upset about last week. But if you give us enough to be excited about, I think that's important. That's my third chirp, John.
Okay, perfect. Unfortunately, I think we just lost our Instagram stream. So I don't know how to get that back right now. We'll have to figure that out. But anyways, so my 3 chirps for this week. Number 1 is the same as yours. Get out of this game healthy. We don't want to lose any starters or anybody for the rest of the year because of this step up in competition. We saw this happen a couple years ago when we played Kentucky. Clayton Cole goes down in that game. We can't have something like that happen here. We got to get out of this game as healthy as possible. Number 2, I want to see some improvement from the passing game this week. We didn't really see much last week, 87 total passing yards, and 37 of them came on one play later in the game. So I want to see some improvement. Now, am I expecting us to go out there and throw for 250, 300 yards against Auburn? No. But I would like to see the passing game get established a little bit more. And I'd like to see it be a little bit more consistent. Like Coach Urimovich was saying, we got to get better every single week. So we need to get better in the passing game this week so that we can keep improving week after week. That's number 2. And number 3, and this is the most important thing of all of this. We need to make sure that check clears from Auburn. We got $1.3 million coming our way for this game. Make it out to Charlie Cardinal. Send it our way. We need that money. That's how we keep this program afloat. Game like Purdue, game like Auburn. So, again, not that fun for the fans of Ball State to watch, but they're important. So, make sure that check clears Auburn. We know you got the NIL money. We know you got that cash flow from your SEC media deals. Send us that $1.3 million. If you want to send a couple extra, round it up to 1.5, feel free. So those are my 3 chirps for this week, Colin.
Solid.
So let's get into our listener questions. So for some reason you're out there and you haven't got in your question yet, feel free to get it in now. This will be your last chance. So let's start with YouTube. Our friend David Doherty, or David, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, but he has a couple. So let's get the first one up here, Colin.
Okay.
His first comment is, I feel the short passing game needs to show success for the running game and the RPO to become effective. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I agree, Dave. I think that just makes sense. The RPO, a lot of times those are short passes too. But the running game is going to help the passing game. The passing game helps the running game. If you can't do one, it's going to hurt the other. So I think that's correct. And I think we did have a little bit of short passing, John. Like that Ty Robinson had a little bit of like a small grab. Just not enough. Not enough. I mean, we definitely didn't have a medium passing game or a long passing game. But I think Dave's right. Yeah, I think we do need to get the short passing game going 100%.
So that was just I think you got 3 comments here. The second one I agree with as well. This is when we were talking about at the very beginning of the show about Coach Urimovich and some of the things. He's saying you got to give him at least 3 years unless he's an unqualified failure. I agree. I think more you got to for sure 3 years. It used to be 4 years when people were getting their recruiting classes in for the whole time. Obviously with the transfer portal now it's a little bit different. But yeah, I think you can't overreact too much this first year. Obviously we want it to go well. But yeah, I agree with David on that one. And then the last time, I think this, yeah, go ahead.
if we exit the season 2-10, say we beat New Hampshire and we beat Kent State, I'm not going to be like, really necessarily super upset at Coach U. Like, that's just how I feel. It's the first year. He's got to get stuff going. I don't want to see 2-10. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't even want to think about 2-10. But if we're 2-10, John, I'm not like horrendously upset. Okay.
Mm-hmm. David's last comment here on YouTube was when we were talking to Kyle. It looks like it popped up. It sounds like our secondary is in for a long night. Kyle was pretty high on those wide receivers from Auburn, and their quarterback looked pretty good last week. So I would agree, based on what we saw last week from Ball State, they're probably going to be able to be moving around quite a lot. So that is what David has for us. Our friend Shay Kramer, he was all over the Instagram chat. Like I said, I think the Instagram stream went down for some reason. So we'll have to figure that out in the future. But I do still have all the comments. But he's on Twitter now. He wants to know any MAC schools with an upset or on upset alert for this week. And so I went ahead and pulled up the MAC schedule for this week, Colin, and we will look at that as well. Colin's much more of a MAC guy than myself. There's one game. Oh, geez. There's one game that really stands out to me where the MAC could upset somebody, but I'll let you kind of pick first and look through that. Where do you think if the MAC's going to have an upset this week, where would it be?
Yeah, the one that's really jumping out at me is Kent State, Texas Tech. No, I'm totally joking. The one is probably Central Michigan, Pittsburgh. Central Michigan, I think, just beat San Jose State last week, and they were like maybe 11.5-point dogs, and I think they're 22.5 here at Pitt. Never say never. I could see that happening. Bowling Green, Cincinnati. Who knows? I could see that happening. Western Michigan, North Texas. Are you telling me North Texas is that much better than like a mid-tier MAC team? Doubtful. Bryant versus UMass. UMass might lose. I love my UMass guys, but they might be on upset alert. Ohio, West Virginia, Parker
That's the one.
Navarro. Yeah, there's a clip. I don't know if we clipped it and put it out, but I was like earlier when I was discussing like who we were going to play, I mentioned Parker Navarro being a top 30 quarterback. John, he might be top 20. He might be a top 20 D1 FBS quarterback. Like he's been superb.
Yeah, Ohio's getting that kind of rare Power 4 coming to a G5 game where West Virginia is coming to Ohio. That seems like the obvious one. Ohio went on the road last week at Rutgers and really pushed Rutgers to the brink. I don't really know a ton about West Virginia, but the line is -3.5. So that would lead me to believe that obviously Ohio has a pretty good shot in this game. So Shay, I would say that would be my pick for the best chance for a MAC team to win this week. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
maybe Ball State. We'll see. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw online that West Virginia fans were buying season tickets for Ohio because the one game price was more expensive than season tickets. So my thought on that, Jeff Mitchell, if you're listening, schedule West Virginia at Ball State. We'll buy a bunch of tickets. Let us know. That could be something there.
So yeah, there you go. Not a bad idea. But there's Shay, our guy here, our great friend Rob, sidelines Ball State.
Legend.
Rob just saying, hey, what's up? Rob, you're a legend. Good job this week on kind of being the shield for Ball State social media. Colin and I are not too big in the trash talk, but you have a lot more fun with that than we do. And so Rob also said that he thinks Ohio is probably going to be the MAC team. If there is an upset this week, that they would be the ones to do it. So let's go to the Instagram chat. It does not appear there's a way for me to pull the Instagram chat onto the screen like I was able to for YouTube and Twitter, but I'll just go ahead and read the ones that are in there. Shay Kramer, again, when we were talking about that Ohio game in 2033, he said he already put his PTO in. So Shay will be there in 2033. Let's see what else we got here. Instagram account Ball State Express. They put, hopefully we don't run the same 3 plays this week. So I think Ball State Express is a little upset with the play calling last week. Colin, do you think there will be a big change in how this game is called, or is it going to be pretty simple like it was last week?
Probably not. I'm expecting it to be pretty simple. give them just like our vanilla plays, honestly, because teams are going to watch this. And I don't know that we don't want to put out our best plays against Auburn when we necessarily don't have the chance. I do agree with Ball State Express that maybe the play calling was a little bit conservative, but it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation. We talked about this on the last pod, but when you can't get anything going, you're more likely to just, let's just run it, maybe a read option, maybe a short pass. We'll throw in one trick play, the double reverse, flea flicker sort of deal. But when nothing's going, you're going to be a little bit more conservative too, I feel like. And then it's also like when they're play calling conservative, nothing is happening. So it's like, what really was going on there? I'm going to assume it was just we were being overpowered. So, but fair question. But unfortunately, Ball State Express, I think the answer is yes. It's going to be similar play calls. If you didn't like last week, you're in for a tough game.
Yeah. One more before we get to the biggest comment of the night, I think. On Instagram, NM Green 34, he said, "How do you guys feel about Central Michigan heading to Pitt?" You kind of alluded to that game a little bit. It seemed like one, if you were to pick, aside from Ohio, is maybe the one you would pick next as your thoughts of an upset in the MAC. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think so. Ohio heading to, say it one more time, John. Ohio heading.
No, so West Virginia is going to
West
Ohio.
Virginia heading to Ohio.
But then he was saying that Central Michigan to Pitt. He wanted to know what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, I'll take, honestly, I'm a homer. Take Central Michigan to cover the 22.5, but I'm probably going to say Pitt most likely wins. Maybe sprinkle the money line, but don't go too crazy with it. That's where I got it at.
All right, and here is the quote of the night or question or comment of the night, I think, is from our friend Shay Kramer again. Mm-hmm. This was in the Instagram chat. He has since come watch it over on Twitter. But Shay has an idea for you if Ball State is somehow to lose to Kent State later this year, which you've been running your mouth a lot about. Yeah. He says, if Ball State loses to Kent State, Colin has to stay at Waffle House for 24 hours, and every waffle he eats, he gets to take 1 hour off his time. Colin, what do you think about that idea?
I'd have to figure out where the nearest Waffle House South Bend is. I'm a Yankee, so I've never even been to Waffle House, truly. But John, if you can find a close Waffle House, we can maybe make that happen. I'm open to a bunch of different ideas. Like I saw a guy saying if Michigan lost to Ohio State, he would walk from Ohio State to Michigan or vice versa, whatever the game, wherever it's being played. But yeah, I'm open to a bunch of different ideas for Kent State because we should not lose to Kent State ever, but particularly while they're this terrible. Okay, so they just had to get 100-yard kick return with 5 minutes left to beat a bad Merrimack. So, I'm not worried about Kent State. I'm people think I just, they just have like real estate in my brain. They do. They're that terrible. Every time I like play a college football 26 and I'm like, I want a relaxing game. I don't want to have to, lean up and get into it. I'll play Kent State, and even on varsity, Kent State is like playing Texas on, freshman or something, so I do love Kent State though. Don't get it twisted. We can't lose to you guys. So I'm open to a bunch of different ideas. Cardinal Nation, go ahead and throw them in there. It's not happening. We're not losing to them. I'm super confident in that. So yeah, whatever people think, we'll end up picking something that week.
Okay. It looks like our last comment here that's come in is again from Rob, our friend Sidelines Ball State. He said he did all that stuff with Auburn, so he didn't come after anyone else. So Rob, we appreciate that. We did not have to deal with any. I didn't have to deal with any Auburn fans earlier this week. I don't know about you, Colin.
Me either.
It did seem like some of the Auburn fans, whether it was on purpose to just get people riled up, or they really are not that in tune with the internet. There was a fake story going out there that. A fake quote about Coach Uranovich saying, that they're going to whoop Auburn's ass and stuff like that. So that was the only interactions I really had with people about that. So that is all of our listener comments and questions. So we appreciate everyone putting them in there. Let's see here. So let's go over the rest of the week real quick while we have everyone before we get out of here. So this weekend, game 7:30 p.m., ESPNU, Ball State Auburn. After the game is over, Spaces on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it. It's going to be on Colin's page this week. It's going to be Ball State Football Talk. So if you got some thoughts that you want to get off live, join the Twitter Spaces after the game. Colin will be hosting it. Number 2, recap show. So the post-game show, whatever you want to call it. Last week, we did it for Purdue at like 11 a.m. This week's going to be early. We're going to do it at 8 a.m. I'm going to the Colts game. I'm flying up to Indianapolis on Saturday. I'm going to the Colts game on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So 8 a.m. We'll be live, but if you miss it live, you're still sleeping, you're hungover, whatever it is, that game or that will be on Twitter. It'll be on Instagram. It'll be on YouTube. So catch that there, 8 a.m. on Sunday. And then we've been doing some sleuthing around. We've been trying to get involved with some other stuff out there so we can get Ball State of the Union out to even more people. And so Colin was doing a little research for the information we were trying to come up with. And we have found that we knew we were basically the only Ball State podcast, but we didn't realize we were one of the only G5 or Mac podcast, basically. So Colin, what did you find out there about what is not out there in the Mac actually?
So if anyone that's watching follows Ball State of the Union closely, they'll know I'm a real football sicko freak. So I went through every single FBS school and tried to find if they had an independent podcast from the school. So like Ball State of the Union, not like McTedrow. We love McTedrow, but not something that the school puts out there. And what I found was, just so people can see it, just so here's the proof, we've got SEC, they have all of them. I go through every single one just so people see that, just so they know this is real. But I went through everything. So SEC has 16 of 16, obviously, Big 10, 18 of 18, ACC, 17 of 17, Big 12, 16 of 16, Pac-12, 8 of 8, American, 14 of 14, Sun Belt, 13 of 14. The only one they were missing was South Alabama. And I got to watching some South Alabama videos, John, and it made me really appreciative of Mick Tedrow and the job the kids at SportsLink are doing right now, because their films look blurry. It looks like what's that movie, 28 Days Later or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just terrible. So then Mountain West, there was 2 that I found in the Mountain West that didn't have pods. Air Force, strangely enough, Air Force football, and San Jose State. Now this is gonna wrap around and make a point here, but Conference USA had 2 as well, Missouri State and New Mexico State. What I found, though, the most interesting thing I found, John, this is the thing I text John at midnight, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Only 3 of 12 MAC schools have an independent pod from the school. And the biggest one is actually UMass. I think they have something called like Flagship. And then I found some on Toledo. But other than Ball State, Toledo, and UMass, and NIU, of course, but I'm not really including NIU and the MAC. They're on their way out.
Mm-hmm.
They had a couple. But I just wanted to put that out there just so people see, like, there's not a lot of people in the MAC doing what we're doing at the level we're doing it, and we're going to keep doing that for the people to give them a good product and one that's superseding every other product you can get in the MAC for MAC podcasts. So we're on the way there. We want to be the number 1 independent podcast for a school in the MAC. And I think we're on the way there. We're going to keep delivering for you guys and keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah. So he texted me this morning and said he was up till 3 a.m. doing that. And I said, you are a sick freak. You just really are. So, so it'll really help us out there. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't already, share it with your friends, share it with your people you went to school with, share it with your sister, your cousin, your brother, your neighbor, your grandma, whoever. Let them know about Ball State of the Union. And we'd really appreciate it. So one last thing, we're going to reiterate it one more time here, and then we will get out of here. Again, deal with the shop, Indy, apparel, merchandise, all kinds of stuff for everything Indianapolis sports and just kind of culture and life there. So they got the Pacers, Colts, Indy 500, Indy 11, Ball State, IU, Purdue, Butler, everything. All kinds of stuff. If you need some new merch, I just got a shirt here this weekend. Use that code BSUnion at checkout and you'll get free shipping. It's not just on Ball State items and all those things I just said. You can use it for whatever. You can couple it whenever they have sales. So if they have 10% off, 20% off, whatever it is, you can couple it with that and get free shipping. So again, that is code BSUnion. Use that at theshopindy.com and you will get free shipping on your order. So that is going to do it for this edition of Ball State of the Union. We appreciate everyone's support. We appreciate everyone being here with us tonight. If you enjoyed this, again, like we just mentioned, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep growing this Cardinal community. Share it with your fellow friends. Again, it really helps us out a lot. So hope everyone out there who is going down to Auburn has a safe trip down there, has a fun trip down there, has a safe trip back. Show up. They're not going to be a ton of us, I'm sure, but the ones that are there, show up, show out, and get after it at the tailgate. We told Kyle on his show last night, whatever we're going to lack on the field, we're going to make up for in the tailgate lot. So be sure to represent Ball State well in the tailgate lot. So chirp, everyone. We appreciate it. Again, Twitter Spaces after the game on Colin's channel, right after the game Saturday night. So we will see you all there. Chirp, and go Cardinals.